Welcome to This Explainer. We usually think of administrative rules in sports as, well, pretty boring guardrails, right? But every so often, a simple rule change doesn't just alter the boundaries of a game, it completely rewires the very nature of how it's played. Today, we're diving into the tactical chessboard of modern football to decode the massive revolution of the five-substitute rule.
To really understand this, I want you to picture the intense tension of a 2017 match. A player gets into a nasty, violent clash of heads. He goes down hard. Eventually, he gets up, visibly drowsy, kind of stumbling, but a few minutes later, he's actually back on the field. Why? Well, players will almost always insist they're totally fine. And coaches? They're staring down the barrel of a crucial match, completely out of substitutions. It's literally an impossible position. They are forced to weigh a player's long-term medical safety against competitive survival.
And that terrifying reality brings us to this incredibly chilling quote, "Let's not wait for a player to die on the field." That came from the National Soccer Coaches Association of Canada, and it perfectly captures the life-or-death urgency that sparked a desperate push for rule changes back in 2017. They actually wrote a letter to FIFA begging for a concussion substitute, just an extra sub that wouldn't penalize a team for pulling off a potentially injured player. Now, at the time, FIFA politely declined, but the seed was definitely planted.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll hit 1. The player welfare crisis, 2. The five-substitute revolution, 3. Mapping the substitution network, 4. Profiling the perfect substitute, and finally, 5. Winning the long game. Let's get right into it.
Starting with Part 1, the player welfare crisis.
So, like we mentioned, FIFA initially rejected those concussion subs. But then 2020 happened. The COVID-19 pandemic absolutely forced their hand. When football finally returned from lockdown, the schedule was just completely insane. We're talking players being asked to play multiple, high-stakes matches a week with basically zero recovery time. To manage that extreme fatigue and stop a massive spike in injuries, allowing teams 5 substitutions instead of 3 was introduced as a temporary band-aid. But here's the thing, it worked incredibly well. The modern game had become so intensely fast that by 2022, the International Football Association Board actually made it permanent.
Which brings us to Part 2, the five-substitute revolution.
Once coaches were handed these 2 extra chess pieces, they didn't just use them to rest tired legs. Oh no, they used them to completely rewrite their game plans. But there's a catch. You see, while coaches get 5 changes, they're heavily constrained by a maximum of 3 substitution windows. You can't just stop the game 5 separate times to kill momentum. You have to bundle your substitutions. And that single constraint transforms a simple player swap into a coordinated tactical wave. A coach might throw on 2 fresh wingers and a striker, all at the exact same moment, to instantly and violently shift the pressing intensity of the game.
All right, Part 3, mapping the substitution network.
To figure out exactly how these 5 subs translate into actual points over an entire season, researchers in 2023 looked at the Chinese Super League using something called social network analysis. It's absolutely fascinating. Think of it like mapping a social network, but instead of tracking who's friends with who, they tracked who replaces who on the pitch over a whole year. The players are the nodes, and the substitutions are the connecting lines. What emerges is this invisible global chessboard, showing exactly how a manager uses their entire squad.
And when you look at those networks, the tactical divide is just stark. You've got teams with high network density, meaning the manager uses a huge variety of substitution combinations. They aren't just swapping a tired left back for a fresh left back. They're pulling off a defender, throwing on a midfielder, shifting the entire formation on the fly. On the flip side, low-density networks mean the coach is totally predictable. They rely on the exact same fixed bench players to do the exact same jobs every single week.
And guess what the data shows? Having that highly flexible, dense substitution network is no longer just a luxury. It's practically a statistical necessity for winning a championship. Teams that execute fluid, unpredictable changes are incredibly difficult to break down defensively. Why? Because the opponent literally cannot predict what shape or strategy they're going to be facing in that crucial final 30 minutes. It translates directly to fewer goals conceded and a vastly superior goal difference.
Moving to Part 4, profiling the perfect substitute.
So, who actually are these players coming off the bench to execute these master plans? Well, it turns out not all substitutes are created equal. Researchers fed every single substitute from the season into a machine learning algorithm called k-means clustering, grouping them by playing time and how often they were used. And what they found was wild. They uncovered 3 highly distinct profiles, 3 very specific types of weapons that managers keep loaded in their arsenal.
Let's break those down. Type 1 players, they are your rapid transition sprinters. They barely play 18 minutes a game, but they have the absolute highest maximum speed. You throw them on late to just absolutely torch tired defenders. Type 2 is super interesting. They come on way earlier, playing almost 40 minutes, but they actually have the lowest passing accuracy. That sounds bad, right? But it's actually by design. They are tasked with making high-risk, game-breaking forward passes. They're the wild cards you roll the dice on when you desperately need a goal.
And that brings us to our final section, winning the long game.
Okay, so we know about the sprinters and the risk takers, but how does this dictate who actually wins the championship over a grueling 9-month season? Enter the Type 3 substitute. The study revealed that coaches heavily prefer Type 3 players. These guys aren't the fastest, and they definitely aren't taking wild risks. They are the glue guys. They have balanced passing, they win their ground duels, and they average about 27 minutes a match. They seamlessly integrate into the game without disrupting the rhythm, serving as the ultimate bridge to carry the starting 11's momentum right through to the final whistle.
The correlation here is just massive. Teams that consistently utilize these balanced, cohesive Type 3 substitutes see a huge surge in goals scored, goal difference, and overall league standing. It's not the flashy, sprinting Type 1 player that guarantees long-term success. It's the dependable, incredibly balanced Type 3 player. The teams that stock their bench with these versatile athletes, those are the ones actually lifting the trophies at the end of the year.
But here's the ultimate paradox of the 5-sub rule. Yes, fresh legs are amazing, but the data proves that maintaining highly predictable, stable rotations for your core starters is the actual secret sauce. It's called core player stability. Basically, even though a coach can change half their outfield team, the best managers don't just create chaos for the sake of it. They have a highly structured rotation. They know exactly who is replacing their top midfielder at the 70th minute, every time. And that stability lets the team keep its core tactical identity, even as the personnel is swapping out.
So the next time you're watching a match and a manager signals for the bench, I want you to ask yourself, is the starting 11 really the most important part of the team anymore? Or is the ultimate victor actually decided by that invisible network waiting quietly on the sidelines? A rule born from the terrifying sight of a concussed player staying on the pitch has evolved into this beautiful, highly calculated science. It is quite literally a game of nodes, links, and clustering algorithms disguised as football. So keep an eye on those 3 substitution windows, because they just might be where the real game is won.